Here we go, man.
Wednesday.
It's another Wednesday, another shot of digital health therapy happening here right in front of you.
And you know, we on our last episode with Jane, we didn't even tell her that she was the cap for season 3, and this is our rewind
recap.
backwards recap. So I got the special something, I don't know. We finally got our liquor from the move, right? So we're now in the final location here in Barcelona.
Okay.
So I'm getting ready here with a little.
I like it. What is this? This is what the heck is that? A single malt. Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. A little actually single malt Scotch whiskey. So I'm gonna pour myself because it's been a long day.
My designer Yeti cup.
Amazing.
So is that season recap?
It is our season recap, and meticulously unproduced, but I did just kind of quickly throw. And before we dive into another topic, right? Because we have some guests waiting a little bit.
Right.
Just realized that we started the season. I was still in my mother-in-law's garage in New Jersey.
Right.
Then some temporary place in Barcelona.
Right.
And finally here, right? And we had GoodRx IPO, a couple of SPACs went live. Just so much stuff happened in season 3. It's crazy.
I was looking back at that, I was going back on the 10 seasons, and I was largely, because being self-obsessed, I was judging it by how much hair product I needed, because I haven't got my hair cut since I started this thing, like how much I needed to just not look completely unkempt.
And we went from, oh shit, will a vaccine arrive, to phase 3, some of the good results. And so speaking of vaccines, I know you also, the beautiful box behind you, I know you have a little process, and we're going to invite for maybe 10 minutes or so some of your awesome colleagues, but I'll let you do the intros once I
let them in.
Let them in.
Yeah. So I think.
Hold on one sec. Yep, we're gonna go this way and this and this.
So who do we got here? Who's showing up? A little surprise guest for the shot of digital health. So who we got here? Oh, here we go.
It's me.
We got Sharifa, and I think.
Hi Jim, how are you?
Good. How are you? And we got Daniella.
Hello.
Thanks, Eric.
Good to meet you both.
This is.
Hi, nice to meet you.
This is Eugene. This is Eugene. So this is our surprise guest. It's our surprise guest. We'll get a chance to. So Eugene, thanks for letting us do it. So we've just completed.
It's your show too, man.
Right. Exactly. So we try not to be too commercial here, but HealthBeacon has just completed a complete redesign of our technology in order to support COVID-19 vaccine delivery. And we think that smart sharp spins have a role to play in helping kind of eradicate.
Just for you two, while he's saying Sharifa and Daniella, we're not supposed to say those words, and he said it already.
So then I was thinking to myself,
a few other podcasts.
So I was thinking to myself, so I have obviously an incredibly talented team at HealthBeacon, represented here by Sharifa and Daniella, and they've just completed writing a white paper on our vaccination project. But I was also thinking that they come from very different disciplines. So maybe I'll let you guys, I don't know, Sharifa, you want to go first, and Daniella, just kind of introduce yourself a little bit, and then eventually I'll let you go back to your evening, wherever you had planned.
The big plans
no
for the
worries.
evening.
Thanks, Jim, and thanks, Eugene. It's great to be here on the podcast. So yeah, my name is Sharifa. I am a doctor by qualification, a medical doctor. So I qualified in 2019, so recently enough. And I've worked kind of over the past year before joining HealthBeacon in a couple of different hospitals, different specialities. And as much as I love clinical medicine and the practicalness of it, part of me would think, is there some way that we can actually bring this control over disease back into the hands of patients a little bit more, instead of just putting out the fires when they present to ED or into hospital? Is there some way that we can help kind of catch it in the bud beforehand? And I think my mind was always, prevention is the best cure. The same rings true for a reason. But I think the way the world was going anyway, the impact that digital therapeutics could have was just growing and growing. And I think with COVID-19, it's just shown us that even more. So I was really excited when I heard about HealthBeacon and the work that they were doing. And then that's kind of how I got into it. I suppose the rest is history. I'll let Jim vouch for anything else since I've joined.
And you joined right at the you joined right as the whole world was heading into spiral, right? Yeah,
pretty much in the middle of the spiral. Yeah.
So you had to join virtually first. You kind of met everybody virtually.
So no, I was actually fortunate in the period of time when I joined. There was kind of a slight easing of restrictions, so it was in July, so things were a little bit better. So it meant I could actually go into the office, obviously with all the precautions in place. But I was so grateful for that. You know, I can't imagine it must be very difficult for people starting virtually. I mean, it's great, all the calls and everything, but it is very different when you're not in person with who you're talking to. And coming from medicine as well, which is such a practical speciality, or at least it has been. I mean, it's changing more now due to COVID, but such a practical line of work. You're dealing with patients face to face. Sorry, is that the word? I missed it. Okay, C19. When you're dealing with patients more and more, you know, you become so reliant on face-to-face interaction. So I was very, very happy to, you know, begin like that and then ease myself into now obviously working from home.
Right.
Fantastic.
And Daniella, so you're coming from you joined after Sharifa did, but completely different discipline. And then you have to tell Eugene where you're with Eugene as well.
So I'm a recent graduate, so product designer from Technological University Dublin, and I'm also from Ukraine, but I've lived here since 2012. Yeah, so as soon as I heard your name, I was like, it's kind of familiar, you know.
We'll have a spin-off of this show. We'll just do it in Ukrainian. No. I actually don't speak any Ukrainian.
You speak Russian or Ukrainian?
Yeah, Russian. I was born in Odessa, so anyway, side conversation.
My dad also is from Odessa, actually, and he lives in New York, so that's kind of like why. Yeah, so it's interesting in that. But yeah, I'm a product designer, and actually talking about like what Sharifa mentioned, it actually is quite hard to work in the design, like it's so collaborative, and obviously now because of whatever is happening, we can't mention the name, but obviously it's quite hard now, and we have to try to learn how to collaborate more. And actually with this VCMS white paper, there was probably one of the first struggle of how we were trying to work as a team, of who's writing and then obviously who was editing, and then obviously we're working in InDesign, and InDesign is quite difficult to be working on every different laptop, so it has to be at one. So that was like a whole different subject in itself. But going back to about me and digital health in general, I think I was always very interested in design part and design and how to do product design and different kind of, I guess, different things in design in general, because product design is so broad. But I did a project, I designed a product when I was in third year, and that kind of drove me into health industry, and I really, really was interested. So when HealthBeacon came around, and I was just, it's honestly, I'm very lucky to be in the company like that, and the design team, and throughout this VCMS project, I think that I've never kind of felt that much support and so many collaborations together, that like it was the data team, the medical team, the product design team, you know, everyone was coming together. It was very cross-disciplined, you know, so yeah, very lucky to be. And on this podcast, you know.
I mean, you have the boss here, so you kind of have to say it too. No.
Yes. They're all reading from a script, you know. No, like, isn't it like amazing? So maybe quickly, and I know because I know I'm stealing your evening time, and thanks for coming on. But so you know about the the project that we're doing. We describe it. Maybe Daniella, just tell her like what the product is, and then the results, and then we'll let you. We'll let you go.
Yes. So you can pitch in anytime if there's any more things that I'm missing, because there's so much to obviously say. So I'm just going to try to be brief. So obviously there was one part was the technology that comes into this whole digital vaccination system, and it was amazing. And we have the smart sharp spin that was battery powered and obviously updates the patient records, and it instantly kind of includes the batch number. So that was amazing in its own self. Takes a picture when the vaccination goes in it. Like when you actually go into the technology there, it gets even more interesting. Then we have the patient app and infrastructure, which I think as a product designer, we are kind of like born into the system of thinking about the patient and how do we make their life easier, and like do we get like locates appointments, that everything is done digitally, that at the moment is probably even more valued than anything else. And you have the reminders on if you forget something. So that's kind of in its own self was a whole project of how do we make it more interactive as well. And then we have the nurse app and infrastructure. So it's like fully tracked system. How do we make the life of the nurse way easier? How do we make the exposure time way less with the patient? How do we make it way better? And the experience overall, I think, was amazing when we were actually conducting the VCMS clinic, when the patients were like, oh, wow, I got my records straight away after I got the nurse, like after I got vaccination, I have the records straight away on my phone, you know? So we got this wow effect as well in it, which was
What a crazy
amazing
concept, right? Having your own data right away.
Yeah, but like
Right.
for me, that was actually one of the most like wow effect, because like I said, I've come from Ukraine and I have no idea what vaccinations I've got in my life. And obviously we all had it written in a little kind of paper thing, and who God knows where it is at the moment. So having something that you can show
You mean
in
you
your
didn't have a
phone-
chip inserted in you that tracked everything you did?
Unfortunately not, unfortunately not. But it would help so much with like the parents would actually track their children's, like if you have multiple children, you know exactly what everyone got in schools and different, you can have it in schools and a nursing thing in like an absolute, like in a working environment, you can track all of that. So that is another thing. So that's number 3. And then we have the dashboard and reporting. So everything that happened in that VCMS clinic can actually have the data, and you can know exactly who did it, how much time they spent in it, like the real-time management. So it kind of fully tracks everything, which I think that is also absolutely amazing. So that was the technology. And obviously I came in at the time that we needed to build the whole clinic. And luckily enough, the restrictions weren't as hard at the time of lockdown. So we could try to see the patient flow. And we were talking with Sharifa about how much space does a nurse need in her little booth of a vaccination? Do we have the 2 meters? And obviously with this whole situation we're in at the moment, we had to obviously, am I getting a hang of it, you know?
Yes, you got it.
And yeah, so all of that had to be in consideration as well. And so I hope I didn't go overboard there and I explained everything.
No, that's great. That's great. And so the rule is that you have to, like when you come into HealthBeacon, you have to survive a very intense project with Jim. You know, that's kind of the brainstorming. But then, okay, so Sharifa, like, and again, I'm cognizant of keeping you guys give it, like, what were the kind of the results, you know, from it, and or what any thoughts you have on the project?
Yeah, so I think, you know, in a nutshell, overall the results were fantastic. I think it's a testament to obviously all the planning that went into it. As Daniella said, there's so much behind it, so each of the steps had to be really thought through. But on the day itself, so I was there along with the nurse we had who was doing the injections, and it all just ran exceptionally smoothly. Like even when patients are sitting down, they hadn't even rolled their sleeve back down again, and I could hear their phones going off, getting their records straight away. So I think, you know, just from a logistic point of view and how it actually progressed on the day, it was fantastic. It was really smooth. Thankfully, nobody fainted on the day. There was no adverse events to be reported. But some of the insights that we got from patients really was the validation that we were looking for and that we got from patients. So I think, you know, it's already been touched on, but patients not having access to their records was really something that was highlighted for us. So I think it was 73% of the patients who responded to our survey said that they didn't have access to their previous vaccination records. And of those who did, they were often, you know, incomplete. They weren't complete records. And I think when I contrasted that for myself, it was interesting to look at that in the context that 45% of our patients had never received a vaccine before. So these are people who were new to getting their influenza vaccine, I should say. So they were willing to not only get vaccinated, but also to use a really novel and new approach to vaccination administration. And to me, that shows a real willingness on behalf of the population and patients to get vaccinated, which is perhaps slightly reflective of the environment we're in at the moment, and maybe with the, you know, the better news at the moment of how effective the I won't mention it, vaccine will be, but I think that is reflected in patients' willingness. But the fact that the same services that patients are willing to engage with don't necessarily provide them with the records they need. That to me shows a real gap. So that was something that I found quite interesting, but we got such an array of feedback from patients, and, you know, quotes like seamless, and that patients have been willing or wanting rather to get their vaccine for weeks, but the kind of digital platform just made it so much easier. And I think, as you both know well, people almost come to expect a digital aspect to the services they're interacting with at the moment. And if that's not there, it's almost, you know, you're thinking, well, why isn't it? So I think patients really appreciated that, and the slickness of it all.
Eugene, would you hire this team?
Done. I was just gonna say, I mean, it's amazing, right? Because I mean, your boss is a crazy idea, man, right? But it's like people like yourself and many others in the company, right? Just bring it to life. And I just read somewhere on Twitter, I don't remember who, so whoever it is, credit to you. But vaccines don't save lives; vaccine programs do. And powered by technology, right? And people, the surrounding is what actually makes it happen, right? Not so. Anyway,
I'd agree.
amazing.
I think, you know, it's only as powerful as how you use it, you know.
And this is our first infomercial on Shadow Digital Health Therapy.
You know, it's not my fault. They sound so good. They sound.
This is awesome. I mean, listen, I love it. Love it.
On the flow, I didn't even give them a proper briefing or anything.
That's even better.
No, so listen, thank you for coming in. And I think the other thing, Eugene, that I was, you know, thinking about was, as you know, I think a lot about this stuff is like, you know, people coming into digital health. Like we interview a lot of people thinking about it. So here you have two people pre the plague, you know, were not involved in digital health care, right? And then now they're doing it and they're coming at it from different disciplines. And so obviously exciting.
Amazing.
We let you guys, I know you have a dinner.
Yeah, and great to meet you. I know you guys have grandiose plans for Wednesday night, but
as great as they can be in level 3.
So thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
great
sorry.
job. Oh yeah, and then we'll send the notes about where people can get the white paper afterwards. So it's white paper at healthbeacon.com. We'll put it on the notes.
All right, awesome.
All the hard work.
Cool. All right, guys.
Thank you. Good to meet you guys.
Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
I think Eugene, that added a bit of energy there, right?
Oh, absolutely. I was drinking to your success. So and the team. So it's always good to meet team members behind the crazy man, the cleaning up your mess, basically.
Easy.
So should we dive right in? I mean, we got 10 amazing people. As you know,
let's go for it.
All right. I actually made the list. So
I got my list too. I was thinking like how we wanted to tackle this one. I mean, you know, it was your idea to start off with the big Marto Kelly here, the first one. So what was your takeaway?
You know, and it's funny, right? Because he kind of brought us together actually because of Health Excel, and actually many of the guests on the last 3 seasons have been through Health Excel or Health 2.0, but like somehow all roads lead to JPM, Irish Bar, you know, and for me, the big line was all around, I think you actually said it though, more fun, less pain, right? So this was like the episode of more fun and less pain.
Yep. We did a memory lane. We did a memory lane, kind of the whole like investing in, you know, digital health companies, the whole forming of, you know, we invested in a lot of like early stage companies, and we brought them all to Dublin, and we talked about Health Excel.
That's right. I still remember part of the discussion was, you know, the pumping music coming out, like the whole accelerator model for Health Excel, which like, you know, that pivot was perfect. And I think one other key takeaway was a little bit of that importance of ecosystems, because none of us can do it alone, right? Like none of us. And I don't mean individuals even, but like groups of people and teams. It's about actually perfect example, right? The 2 amazing women that you had earlier, and from different disciplines, putting it together and delivering on something towards the patient. So that was my big takeaway from Marty.
Awesome. And then we went to Rashida, right? I got the order right here.
Rashida, yeah. So I can you probably took some notes as well. This was actually, I mean, it's still not produced, but at least we had to organize ourselves, right? I actually thought, our discussion with Ken during these times of just amazing and incredible change. I think Rashida's comment was around like, can investors create new patterns out of what we've seen, right, in the last 9, 10, 11 months?
Right.
And I actually think, I've seen some data points around the investment activity, right? Just picking back up to kind of pre C19 levels. I also loved, she's, Rashida is doing quite a lot of work with underrepresented founders, right? And I just saw her recently. She joined a nonprofit organization in Heart Health on the advisory board. Again, I don't want to steal her thunder, so she can chime in the comments.
Right.
But
yeah, I think the big thing for me, well, I just love the story. Like a lot of these things, I just love the story. Like how, again, that went back to Martin Kelly because she came to the Health Excel event, or his company. How we met, in the first time within a half a day of meeting her, we were singing karaoke,
on an island or something, right? Also,
and then the next day, she got her invite to the Aran Islands, which is on the West Coast.
That's right.
And then she was talking about getting into pain management. So I was, was like pain, but I think the biggest thing I walked away was the work in the diversity side, which obviously is important work. And she's like an infectious enthusiasm, right? Like she just to be kind of enthusiastic and positive, and
and I actually think with Rashida, she was one of the most watched episodes in 3 seasons.
We needed that.
We got Shwen Gui, so he's on to the new journey at BMS. My biggest takeaway was that he was a podcaster before podcasting was even a word or something like that, right?
Right. That was cool. And then the tales of the drug side. Is that the
tales of the drug side? I think that's it. That was it. That's it. I forgot to look that up. I think that was it.
That was okay. Yeah.
I think that was the podcast. Podcast.
Right.
We obviously neither one of us actually re-listened to the episodes. It's just from our old middle-aged memory.
Right. It fades in and out on that one. Yeah. So he's kind of like very interesting, right? Like kind of moving through different companies. So I think there was 3 big pharma companies that was doing podcasts. So I think this is idea really interesting because it wouldn't happen in the past of like executives kind of working outside the industry and then back in the industry, because usually it's kind of their doors that aren't always revolving. They're kind of one-way doors, right? Like
but he's always been able to kind of, yes, the kind of the corporate gigs in pharma, but he's always been about like the MIT Hacking Health, I think, right? The South by Southwest, like, it was early on. In what's the big digital marketing show in France that he's attended from before? I forget the name of it now, but so he's always had like the innovation gene even outside of his corporate umbrella, right? So
right. And he didn't want he was showing us his press pass. He ended with his press pass at the end.
That's right.
So then we go to Mimi Billing, right? So you met Mimi somewhere first. So you invited, that was your guest.
Yeah. So we met actually in the Nordics. To be honest, I forget which one. And she invited me to be on a panel, and I met her, and I loved how she popped on without thinking that it was going to be a video interview, right? So, but rolled with it, right? Like just rolled with it. So, and a consultant turned journalist, like, I don't know how often that happens, right? To me, that was, and I still, go ahead.
No, go please.
No, I love, Sifted, right? That just kind of came on the scene, and then, it's got a big sponsor behind it, right? I forget, is it Financial Times or?
Financial Times.
Yeah, FT.
Yeah, she had just done an article around greenwashing, which
That's
is
right. Yeah.
And actually that's something that hasn't come up in our podcast, and something we're in, like that my company's involved in, is this whole idea of like, with digital therapeutics, I suppose, is this whole idea of sustainability. Like, sometimes startups, like she was kind of holding startups accountable to what they said, like the claims they were making, right? Like that was kind of interesting. And it was like a scooter company that, said they were saving X amount of CO2 emissions, or I'm not sure what it was. And she kind of gave them some.
Yes, called them out.
But she was she just went with it. She flew with it. She's a pro.
One comment, I mean, we talked quite a lot about, scaling digital health in Europe and some of the challenges and kind of the old machinery of Europe, and, and is it good, bad, indifferent? I mean, and we've sort of went through a number of companies that have been able to successfully scale across and beyond.
Right. Yeah. And it was a real kind of like, kind of like this confident, like Nordic, kind of health system that has a perspective on things and bringing digital health in. I hadn't quite thought of it that way, because I'm a blow into Europe, coming from Boston, and Ireland the infrastructure in Ireland isn't Sweden,
and the winds are not strong enough to blow you back. So,
right. So she was
kind of stuck there. Well, we're moving right along. I love this. Mr. Kendall, Dan Kendall. I don't want to age him. Yeah. So first of all, I'm going to do one of those not worthy. I mean,
right.
I don't want to age him, but like, I feel like, and not because of his age or character, like, I feel like he's like the grandfather of digital health podcasts, right? And like, he's caring and taking care of everyone, trying to make sure that, everybody gets their minute of fame, or 30 minutes or 70, right?
Right. He seems like he's this genuine kind of give in to the universe, and kind of like, respect. I think he respecting what we're doing, because we're just trying to give a bit of positivity into the universe. It seems like he literally lives by that. Like that's always,
My biggest takeaway from that, honestly, and I've actually been thinking a lot, just because as I listen to a lot of podcasts now, whether it's in the run or whatever, I'm kind of like microdosing on these podcasts, but based on my very unique little interest of the day, right? Like actually today I listened to one about politics, and not US politics, by the way, like something that Merkel was talking about. So like, I think the whole micro audiencing was the biggest thing that I took out of that discussion, actually.
Yeah, the fact that he's going in. Yeah, he seems to have there's such a portfolio of activity he's involved in. He always seems so prepared as he goes into these different things. So he kind of, he seems to be able to kind of, you never meet him and he's not prepared or has the best microphone, or whatever the scenario is.
I tell you, Jim, I'm I started to cheat on you already, right? So I recorded my first DTX podcast, that obviously working with Dan. I was like, holy shit, I actually need to prepare for this. Like, I need to do some research. I need to structure it a bit. I was like, this, this is no cakewalk. I mean,
I think he would up our game. He'd up our game. And we bring a different thing.
Yeah, exactly. We got Gautam Gulati. Gautam. That was
actually, so I'm going to kick this one off. Like, so he's totally changed my life now, right? Because of Naval, who I'd heard before, but he was just pointing out the importance of, I don't know what Naval's last name is, but the guy that started up AngelList. And I listened to his podcast, and, so I listened to, some of the podcasts he'd done, and just the way he communicated, and he was just talking about pound for pound wisdom there. So just that little tip on that, I'm actually doing some of like Naval's like techniques.
Are you doing nothing for at least 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Are you?
Totally.
Wow.
And I'm blown away by it. I'm blown away how easy it is.
Really?
I've tried that before, to do nothing.
I tried for 30 seconds, didn't work.
No. Yeah, no, I kind of followed what he did, and I was there, and I'd set my alarm, and first I did it for 5 minutes. I'm like, no way I'm gonna do it for 5 minutes. And then boom, 5 was gone. And then I went in and did it for 10, boom, 10 was gone, And the other day I did it, I sat down, I did it for 15 minutes and just crushed it. So it was like a form of meditation that wasn't all about the, the calm and the headspace stuff and the music it was just kind of a form of meditation,
So is that going to help you to truly become a health artist, which is one of my things, right? Like he was coined as a health artist. And I think, did he call us health artists as well? Or we self-proclaimed ourselves?
We might have self-proclaimed.
Yeah.
I might have jumped in. I'm always after a good title. But yeah, no, we're health artists, but I love that. Yeah, actually, it's funny. When I was going back on my notes, I kind of missed on that, but that was big, right? Because this idea, even like, we had my team on a second ago. It's like, okay, we got a product designer, we got a medic, and like, I'm the artist, I'm the artist helping to bring it together, for the orchestrator.
That's right. The different paintbrushes working together. Right.
Right. No, that's a big, so he's very insightful. He's obviously seems like an incredible, like a polymath and like, off the hook smarts.
Yeah, I mean, the whole storytelling as medicine, and actually, I kind of thought about this, right? Like, do we as parents do enough storytelling to our kids, right? Like versus back in the day, and now much more maybe self-sufficient the kids are, even like the iPad babies, right?
Right.
So I know I'm sort of bringing it to our next generations, but that storytelling as prevention or medicine, right? Either way you look at it was a phenomenal.
And just pulling on that, like the story is so the idea that you're teaching the children how to deal with something or deal with an injury or deal with an illness by, telling them a story. And, I'm just kind of going back to that. Was that the concept that he pulled on a little bit, or what was it?
I'm searching my brain right now, to be honest.
Because I think that's really interesting. Like I think of even a lot of the work that you're doing, like with health coaching and all that stuff. It's like, taking some time, this whole idea, like I'm kind of become fascinated by this, the whole idea of not making the injury bigger than it is and, putting it in context. And a story sometimes will put it in context. Like, so if you're in a panic about what's going wrong with you right now, but then you can think it over the arc of your life, it's probably just a small piece of the story, right?
I mean, health coaching, and, to sort of bring it to that, it's, and I think one of the other things that he said at the time was that, silence is even more powerful, right? So on one side, there's storytelling, but then actually as a health coach, and again, I'm not, but I've taken the 9-week class, listening is a big component of that. So staying silent and helping your clients reflect on what they just said, right? Listening to their stories, understanding what the triggers are, what are the tough points in their life is key. So
and then this whole so one last thing on that one is like, so this whole idea of like data. And so we had a little bit of a debate, or in my mind there was a debate of like this idea that data wasn't telling a story, or is it telling a story? So, and I think like data obviously tells huge stories about someone, like like what a little piece of information. So there's this kind of idea that like, if the data arrives but the patient doesn't, will the doctor know the story of the patient? And the answer is just a different kind of story, right?
So I don't remember if we talked then, but it's interesting because I've seen, if you torture data long enough, it'll confess to anything. And I actually always said that data doesn't speak, people do, right? And it's that particular person's interpretation of that data is what actually counts at the end, right? Or that's what people hear. I mean, look at
we have on our wall there's a little quoting that says the data has a story to tell. I'm in the data room. That's on our wall.
Got it. Yeah. But again, right? Well, actually, we should have that whole as a separate sideshow. No, anyway. So let's. Gautam will be happy. I think we've spent quite a lot of time on. We're so proud to be called health artists that we decided to take up more time.
Celebrate ourselves.
Another type of artist was our next, right? Kind of a business creation artist, Lee Shapiro.
Right. But also like an engineer in it, a little,
accountant, a lawyer, right? I mean, just amazing guy.
Yeah, bringing others. I mean, but this was the thing I was fascinated with him, was just these guys did it so quickly. They produced Livongo. They acquired a company. They went after it. They obviously had a lot of kind of resonance around Glenn Tolman's personal story. but they just were obviously so linked up as a team, the way they attacked that thing. And what I was wondering about, like the sheer energy levels it was to create a company that quickly, list it, bring it in, $1 billion, pull off the acquisition. Like, what was his routine? Like, what's his routine that he has so
the
much
crazy
energy?
part is I wonder, because I mean, he said, right, he runs, meditates. I bet you the routine probably didn't change from pre to post to during, like, and that's the consistency that great leaders do, right?
Right.
Like, that's the consistency that you need to stick to and
Yeah.
to execute. And I guess, all of these guys, it's not their first rodeo, right? I mean, I know both of them, they've been working for 25 years, Glenn and Lee, and many
Right.
others in that team. So,
Yeah.
I, the funny part for me was that, and I got a lot of shit for it from Mr. Holt, is my mispronunciation of SPAC versus SPAC, and it still keeps going, I think. So,
Yeah.
which, by the way, on that note, just read another SPAC, another 150 plus million SPAC.
Wow.
It was Population Health Partners. So out
Wow.
of London, I think, of the team. I just spoke to Tom Danson this week, so it'd be interesting to see what they do next.
You know what he gave me out of this idea, and it was kind of a brainstorm that came on the spot when we were talking to Lee, was this idea, and he had said a version of it, but I kind of put it in my own health artist words, is this idea of the superpower, the superpower that digital health gives you. So like, so thinking about the problems you're solving for the patient, thinking about the energy that comes from that, and the fact that, kind of gives you a superpower doesn't exist in other businesses, right? Like if you're really helping, like you talk about with Health Coach, someone who's struggling with obesity and mental health issues, or for me, it might be, someone that has severe rheumatoid arthritis and can't, has to learn how to take their medications, but it's this idea of like using the patient story as a superpower. And I've been using that with my team. That's like, what's our superpower here? Because when you feel frustrated and you don't want to work anymore, or, people are saying no to you, that was my takeaway.
Awesome. Superpowers. Okay. I love superpowers. Next, so Unity, right? I mean, just such a chill guy, but yet so accomplished, right? With Steve creating the Transformer army. But also, this is the episode when you decided to be a producer all of a sudden with the 4-minute cut out of it, the one and only. So Unity should be proud of that, because you actually spent time cutting out where you pushed me to continue the episode, which I loved.
Yeah, and that one was, I mean, like genuinely, actually, as I'm thinking about these things, like what are little inspirations that I got out of these things was, so for me, it was like I was just listening to the end, and he kind of caught me that it was like staying in the game. And I think for any entrepreneur, like, that's everything, right? Like, it's like just staying in the game, persevering. But the way he was thinking about it, you could see him like coaching the startups. You could see him like, guys, just stay in the game, persevere. So much coming at you. You're not going to be able to make sense of it all right now. It's exciting things. Like I was just on a podcast, and they said, Jim, how do you feel about what's going on? Or I was on a conference, a virtual conference, and like, do you feel like it's a tailwind? Do you feel like it's a headwind? And I'm like, it's a fucking whirlwind is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, that was my response. Like the winds are everywhere, And so I thought he kind of definitely got into my psyche about staying in the game. And so I was kind of reflecting on that. So that's why I clipped it.
No, listen, I love it. And I think I love still their term, right? Batteries included, but also to make sure, I mean, their aspect of kind of mental health, make sure that those batteries don't run out. I mean, just because you're an Energizer bunny at some point, that batteries will still die, right? Unless you really recharge them. So.
Yeah, that was cool. No, I totally, and I know you guys have talked about that before, but I hadn't heard that. So that was fantastic. Yeah, obviously kind of a coach, right? Doesn't he seem like a bit of a coach?
Yes, it's just like, so, it's almost like no matter what goes on in your life, like the ups and downs, like, Unity just, can bring you down to earth. So it's awesome. The amazing Chris Coburn.
Right.
I know you have a lot of, like, for me, the biggest takeaway is the Chris Coburn hiring method, right? Like, that was kind of cool. So for the people that are watching this, they'll need to watch the whole episode of Chris Coburn to really get the insights of that.
Right. So what was the hiring method?
No, that's what, dude, I just said, like, this is how we get more views on people's shows, man.
Okay, got it. I missed it.
I was like, to get that, you will need to watch the whole episode of Chris Coburn. I'll leave it hanging.
I thought he's such an interesting guy. He's definitely in that kind of like, I put him in that kind of Lee Shapiro kind of energy, tackling so many big problems, going in there, seems to be unflappable, right? Like, head of, kind of innovation for such a big health system. Haven't done it before, but like had worked in NASA, had worked in, as kind of a, politics, and now was
politician, yeah, as well.
Yeah. So I don't know, me, like I kind of I was trying to bring in this whole kind of like, I find when I talk to him, his interests like in Irish plays and Irish authors, and he's obviously fascinated by his own kind of ancestral heritage back to Ireland and things like that.
Yep.
That he had all these other interests. He wasn't one dimensional.
That, and the fact that he was one of, I think, 7 or 8 kids, right? And that he really had to kind of fight for it in Darwinism to a certain extent, right?
Yeah, but definitely clarity of thinking, and I won't give away the secret on this one. Like he also said at the end, like when we asked him, we did the same thing and asked him again, what's the advice? Is like, when you're trying to break into a health system, it's like, go to a smaller one first. It was like,
I mean, no bullshit answer, right? Like, just it just much more difficult to navigate, right?
Right.
But I guess we could just I'll be frank with you, I actually forgot. And then it just came back to me, the Chris Coburn method. So that's why I played it off that way. I'll be frank with the audience, but it was all around writing well. As I was writing, it just hit me, right? So his hiring method, if you're writing well, that means you're thinking clearly, right? And to do a great job, you need to think clearly. So I thought that was like brilliant, right? I think for any new hire, I'm going to give a writing test now. So
I thought that was so interesting. And I thought his answer at the end, when you asked him, you could see him almost writing in his mind. And the fact that he has an interest in this whole kind of, these authors and reading and kind of going at that. I thought that was like this clarity of, of approach. You could almost see him like, well, how would you do it? Or would you go to a small one first and you go to a big one? You just felt like the answer was like Pete Buttigieg style, was like as if
right.
It was as if he knew the question before.
He's just a little taller, but
a little taller. Exactly. Cool.
And then just last week, I don't know, my mind is still blown, right? And as much as I'm like a huge fan of digital health and digital technology, and that's where I've been sort of operating in, I think just the neobiological revolution discussions that we had with Jane Metcalf. I mean, just what an amazing woman. Yeah,
I'm dying it. I got to get more time with her somehow, because I need to find out more hacks, like life hacks here. I'm looking for them.
I'm actually looking forward to, my biggest takeaway is I cannot wait for her podcast to launch next year.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah, I'd say it would be excellent. Yeah, no, she was, I wrote down redwoods, I think that, redwoods out the window, that was like field hockey, I think we kind of covered a lot of subjects are kind of there. She obviously enjoyed it. I think she enjoyed it. The whole microdosing,
yes.
lithium,
microdosing of lithium. Yeah. We metformin, right. And people taking metformin for, let's call it off-label reasons.
But, I think like, okay, so we're digital health artists, and she's kind of like a digital health, like communicator, right? Like, so she's bridging these like neuroscience.
Yeah, I mean, look, in almost any industry or sub-industry, right? I think you need people that have that level of deep understanding and expertise, but can also communicate very clearly, right, to much more of masses. And especially when things are so much of a black box, like, I mean, what is synthetic biology, and why do I care what it is, right? And so it takes certain individuals and very much of journalistic as well, right, experience to be able to translate.
Yeah, dissect it, understand it, know what's important, communicate it back to other people, and not live in all the acronyms and lingo and black box stuff, like you said.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Dude, this is a wrap. I mean, holy crap. 3 seasons, like 30 episodes of just with guests. Did you ever think we'd be here? And this is December of 2020.
Right. It kind of felt like possibly a 4 or 5 kind of episode thing, and then kind of move on. Shiny objects.
So if anybody's still watching us and listening to us, 40 something minutes into this, we can almost say anything right now, and I'm just curious who will pick it up. Should we give like a riddle and see who actually answers that riddle?
Right.
See who's actually the gung-ho fan. I also heard, by the way, so we hit I think I want to say 156 listeners or something, or subscribers to the YouTube channel, and I don't know, thousands and thousands of downloads and podcasts. Well, sorry, not thousands. 1,300, 1,400, something like that. But the reason I bring it up, somebody just said that we can, you know how YouTube channel links are like these long links. If you get 150 subscribers or plus, you can get like a unique URL for your channel. So I'm gonna get on it, Jim. Let's see if we can grab some, unique handle for it. We'll brainstorm on WhatsApp.
Right. I like it. It's funny. You referred me someone that we're thinking about hiring into HealthBeacon, and she had listened to something like almost like all of our episodes.
Is that why you're hiring her, really? Because she got so much knowledge out of those 30 hours roughly?
Yeah, she was so inside my head that she's like, I know, it was like this kind of asynchronous, she knew so much about me, like, like our bookcase in our house and my family and wife and all that.
I mean, that's a little freaky thing, but no, I'm kidding. She's amazing. So let's see where that lands. I think if she's watching this one and sticking with it, let's see how. Well,
what she was obviously complimenting us, but what she was saying was like, as someone trying to break into digital healthcare and just kind of almost like following you and I kind of doing our journey through like, hey, what we've learned about digital health with guests and things like that, I'd say, could be useful, hopefully.
But stay tuned for infomercial number 2 for this episode. And keep waiting for the Shot of Digital Health Therapy coffee table book that will be coming out sometime early next year.
Wait, no chance anyone's listened to that. Cool.
Anyway, awesome. Man,
I think we've done it.
Season 3, it's a wrap.
It's it.
And next week, season 4 begins.
Let's make it happen. All right, man.
Great stuff. Cheers. Awesome. Subscribe now, people. Hit it. Pass it on.